So I just came across this reel on Instagram, and this girl was explicitly stating that her partner needs to make at least 50 lakhs a year. Otherwise, how will he afford her beauty treatments and her spa, mani, pedi, and all of those things? And this kind of content is the kind of content I have absolutely hated from the get-go. And this, my friends, is called the I want a rich husband content. Now, I'm sure there are other names for it. A lot of people also go for the trad wife content, but I'm specifically talking about content that, has women in the center stage who are specifically stating that her partner needs to be rich for very superficial reasons. We need to put a stop to this kind of content before it gets out of hand, because this kind of content is extremely bad for us. And I'm going to tell you why with 7 important points. Let's go. The first and the most important factor I feel is that a lot of this content does not even acknowledge the fact that making 30 lakhs a year, 40 lakhs a year, 50 lakhs a year, that is not the average Indian household income, especially for one guy. So when you are making such assumptions or you are putting out such demands, and a large number of girls, young girls, are seeing you, they are thinking that it's okay to have unreal expectations from their future partner. This might actually kind of prevent them from having good and genuine relationships. The average Indian makes somewhere between 30 to 35,000 a month only. And that brings me to my second and the most important point. India is still a developing country. If you want to live in a metro city, most likely you will need a dual income household. Economic participation in India for women is not just a privilege, it's also sometimes a responsibility and a necessity. And if we are propagating the thought that since you're a girl, you can afford to be a stay-at-home wife, and your husband will do all the earning, you are at the same time also propagating the thought that guys can choose not to do any household chores and not take household responsibilities, which is equally toxic and harmful. I feel like every individual, every human needs to be able to sustain themselves. I should know how to do my own cooking, cleaning, living, making money, and be able to sustain myself. And my partner should be able to do the dishes, do the cooking, and also make his own money. When we are both fulfilled human beings, that's when we create a beautiful relationship. A relationship should not be created by fulfilling lack or gaps, but rather it should be two very abundant people coming together, because that's where the most beautiful relationships happen. Now, this is not to say that I don't acknowledge the fact that sometimes girls are genuinely better cooks and sometimes men do make more money, but that should be an added privilege or just a good to have, not a necessity. The fourth point I want to talk about is that a lot of times these content would also be kind of blanketed with the idea that if it's a woman's choice, it must be right. It must be feminist, right? Wrong. A lot of times when women are teaching other women that it's okay to depend on a man, that it's okay to choose to be a stay-at-home wife, they are completely disregarding the fact that depending on a man often increases the chances of domestic abuse, increases the chances of financial or emotional abuse as well for the woman in the relationship. There's so many women who have suffered because they did not have financial autonomy. And this is why generations of activists, thinkers, men and women have fought. They've literally fought for decades and centuries to give us our rights, our basic rights to go out, to wear what we want, to vote, and eventually to make money. If you're going to disregard decades of hard work in the name of I want to get my madi pedi done, you're not being right to the hundreds and thousands of women who have suffered. You're being unfair to the girls in rural areas and many Orthodox families who are till today fighting to study more, fighting to have a career, fighting to be financially autonomous. And you have been given it all on a silver platter probably, because you've been privileged enough to be born into a rich household, your parents have taken care of you, and you're throwing that all away and calling it feminism. I don't think that that's how it works. And no, not everyone who is dependent on a man probably experiences these harms, but a few do, and we have to consider all possibilities. Recently, I saw a video on the channel of this trad wife. I think it's called something like ISIS, and there was basically this woman who used to propagate the idea of femininity and, being a woman that is so feminine that a man would want to provide for you. She also used to talk about how she got married a second time because of her beautiful qualities to an amazing man who is rich and provides for her, and how all her followers could do the same as well. Turns out her husband was abusing her younger daughters, and That is absolutely brutal and shocking. And imagine a woman who has literally made her career about being a great wife and having a great husband who is rich enough to provide for her suddenly realizes that her husband is actually an abuser. How brutal that must be. But that also says that the people that you're watching, they don't always know what they're going through. Kudos to that woman for actually moving out and taking steps against this husband. But imagine how many women would have to go through much more devastating situations if they are not wary of taking care of their own finances. The sixth point I want to talk about is that in a lot of these videos, we see conversations around beauty. A lot of these women would say, I want my man to sponsor everything that I need to stay beautiful because he enjoys it. Well, a big problem with that is that if your thought process is like this, you will probably attract a person into your life who cares a lot about your beauty. And those kind of people are usually almost always very shallow as a person, and they are probably not going to provide you with the best relationship out there. The best relationships are based on friendship, mutual respect. I don't think beauty even stands in the list. Of course, it is good if your partner is good looking, but I feel when we are in love, it doesn't really, I feel like when we are in love, it doesn't really matter to us whether our partner adheres to the natural standards or the societal standards of beauty. Our partner is the most gorgeous person to us. Ask anyone in love, okay? The beauty, the aesthetics of society does not matter to us when we actually love a person. So either you want a very shallow person or you yourself have a very shallow mindset to want to depend on a man for your beauty, which is kind of transient. I also see a lot of women defending this choice, saying that, okay, why not? Why shouldn't a girl want to marry a rich man if a rich man can want to marry a beautiful girl? That is like battling one negative thinking or one wrong thinking with another wrong thinking. Again, if a guy wants to marry a woman just for her beauty, he is wrong too, but that's for a different conversation. You can't fight one wrong with another. It doesn't work that way. We have to realize that the era when women used to depend on men for their livelihoods, for their day-to-day lives, was not a gorgeous period. If it was, then our mothers wouldn't want to educate us and want to send us to schools so that we become financially independent. They would just want us to also become like them. So many mothers and grandmothers have fought for their children to not go through the same fate that they have. If it was that beautiful, it wouldn't have been that way. Anyway, that's it for my rant, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I just wanted to put it out there because I know that there are genuinely amazing women who are always working hard to build a career for themselves, build a future for themselves. And I see an increasingly high number of such videos that gets millions of views. And I'm worried for the next generation of girls who might actually get brainwashed into thinking that they should depend on a man for money.